What was the result of David's war with the Philistine giants? This is the question that we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of 2 Samuel on walking through the Bible. Today we're going to be discussing 2 Samuel chapter 21, verses 15 to 22. But before we do that, let's read the passage. If you have a Bible with you, turn to 2 Samuel chapter 21, verse 15. But if you don't have a Bible, don't worry. Just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So 2 Samuel chapter 21, beginning at verse 15. When the Philistines were at war again with Israel, David and his servants with him went down and fought against the Philistines, and David grew faint. Then Ishbi-Benob, who was one of the sons of the giant, the weight of whose bronze spear was 300 shekels, who was bearing a new sword, thought he could kill David. But Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, came to his aid and struck the Philistine and killed him. Then the men of David swore to him, saying, You shall go out no more with us to battle, lest you quench the lamp of Israel. Now it happened afterward that there was a battle with the Philistines at Gob. Then Sibbecai, the Hushathite, killed Saph, who was one of the sons of the giant. Again there was war at Gob with the Philistines, where Elhanan, the son of Jair-Oregim, the Bethlehemite, killed the brother of Goliath, the Gittite, the shaft of whose spear was like a weaver's beam. Yet again there was war at Gath, where there was a man of great stature, who had 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot, 24 in number, and he was also born to the giant. So when he defied Israel, Jonathan, the son of Shemaiah, David's brother, killed him. These 4 were born to the giant in Gath, and fell by the hand of David, and by the hand of his servants. In this chapter, we have a couple of accounts that do not seem to fit into the chronological timeline of the book of 2 Samuel. In the last lesson, we discussed the atonement for Saul's sins against the Gibeonites, sins we didn't know about from 1 Samuel. And in this lesson, we have David's war with the Philistine giants. However, even though they don't seem to fit chronologically, it is possible that they do in fact fit if you allow the author here to treat the entire events of chapters 11 through 20 as one unit, centering around David's sin with Bathsheba and the aftermath of that sin. With David now back on the throne, and that chapter in David's life now complete, it gives the author of 2 Samuel time to go back and give a couple of events in David's life that occurred sometime around the events of chapter 12. But while it is unknown exactly when the events with the Gibeonites took place, we do know when the events we read about today took place, at least in relation to another event. For 1 Chronicles 20 records this event as taking place after David's defeat of the Ammonites that we saw back at the end of chapter 12. So yes, we don't know exactly when this occurred, but we do get a range of being sometime between David's defeat of the Ammonites and Amnon raping his sister Tamar. That would put David in his late 40s here. Recall from earlier in David's reign that he had subjugated the Philistines. He didn't utterly destroy them, though, and by this time, if our chronology is correct, about 10 years have passed, and so it is only natural the Philistines try to break free of David's clutches. From the description of what we read, we find out that Goliath wasn't the only giant who lived among the Philistines, for there were others. The first we read of in 2 Samuel 21 is Ishbi-Benob. This man had a spear that weighed 300 shekels of bronze, meaning that it weighed about 3.4 kilograms or 7.5 pounds. For those who want to compare it to Goliath's spear, this spear was about half the size of Goliath's, though still very large and very dangerous. Ishbi-Benob also had a new sword and was so confident in his weaponry that he thought he could kill David, who had come out to the battle. And if it hadn't been for Abishai saving him and killing the giant, he might have. Following this encounter, David's men made David swear that he wouldn't come out to the battle again, for he was the light of Israel, the man that brought Israel together as a nation, and the one through whom God worked. Therefore, they thought if David died, the nation would fall apart, for remember, at that time, Amnon was probably the heir apparent in their eyes. Now, this oath does tell us a couple things. First of all, it does confirm that these events here in chapter 21 did occur after David's sin with Bathsheba, For the writer of 2 Samuel made it quite clear in chapter 11 that David chose to remain in Jerusalem instead of going out to battle with the Ammonites. If the events here in chapter 21 took place before then David's oath would have been the reason, and such a note about that would have been made, or a statement about David not going to battle would have been omitted. Second, the reason that David was likely almost killed fits with our timeline too, for David would be approaching 50 here. When David smote Goliath, he was a teenager. At that time, his body hadn't been ravaged by war and years running from Saul. Those things would naturally take a toll on the body, and as one aged, it would make the body less effective at things that require stamina and strength, like fighting battles. And third, this oath also explains why David would later offer to go to battle against Absalom, something he had not done since this oath, and why his men refused. When taken together and read in context, the story does fit together, even if it looks out of place by today's standards. The next battle took place at Gob. We don't entirely know where Gob is, but probably in Philistine territory, so our map on the screen places it somewhere between Ekron and Gath. The place is not entirely important that we know, but what happened here is, which is that Sibbecai, the Hushathite, killed Saph, another one of the Philistine giants. That Israel was defeating these giants is a testament to their faith in God, faith that would have been instilled in them by David. For remember, when Goliath had come against them, all Israel was afraid. At another battle, Elhanan, the son of Jair-Ogram of Bethlehem, killed the brother of Goliath. Now this passage presents some expositors with a problem, though that problem is not entirely evident at first glance. If you read along in your Bibles instead of on the screen, you would have noticed that the phrase brother of is in italics. When reading through the Bible, if you see words in italics, they're not there for emphasis, but rather to show the readers that words have been added to the English translation in order to make the reading clearer. In this case, the Hebrew read that Elhanan had killed Goliath the Gittite. Well, if Elhanan did kill Goliath and not his brother, does that mean that there were two Goliaths? Because we know that David killed Goliath back in 1 Samuel 17. Does it mean that Elhanan is another name of David, who was also from Bethlehem? And to answer this question, a quick glance over to 1 Chronicles 20, verse 5, would show us that in fact Elhanan killed the brother of Goliath, not Goliath himself. And since brother of is not in italics there, we know that that is what the Hebrews said, that the addition of brother of by our translators is warranted and acceptable here in 2 Samuel 21. Getting back to the account now. With 3 giants dead, we have an account of a 4th giant who was killed by Jonathan, the son of Shimea, meaning that he was David's nephew and the brother of Jonadab, the man who gave Amnon the bad advice concerning Tamar. The giant that Jonathan killed was rather notable, for he had 6 fingers on both hands and 6 toes on both feet. Now, yes, this would be a birth defect and out of the ordinary, but that is exactly why it is included here in 2 Samuel 21. These extra digits, though, didn't save this giant, and he too died. In all, 4 giants fell by the hand of David and his men, and the Philistines were again subdued. Now, yes, David didn't actually kill anyone, but as king and leader, David gets the credit for what the army does, a practice that still exists today. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of 2 Samuel chapter 22, verses 1 to 13, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time. Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.